main reason we're here is to talk about this book, which we'll put a link to the chat in, which is called Israel on the Brink and the 8 Revolutions That Could Lead to Decolonization and Coexistence. This is Professor Pappé's new book, which is in the link. But before I get to it, I just feel like I should probably ask how you make sense of this of the Trump ceasefire. What do you think it means?
Well, I think tactically, it does bring a lull in the fighting, which means some Palestinians can enjoy some rest from bombing, whether from the sea, the air, or the land. Prisoners on both sides can reunite with their families after, on both sides, living under very, very difficult conditions. I think that's the end of the good news of this initiative, and I'm not underestimating it. It means a lot for a lot of people. But beyond that, definitely it has nothing to do with the language used by Trump. You know, the biggest peace deal ever after 3,000 years, finding the solution. It is nothing of the sort. These are very vague ideas, mostly ideas that had been attempted before or were at the base of previous attempts at peace and that have failed. For example, there is no consultation with the Palestinians themselves. Yet again, they are not asked what is their vision, what they would like. So everybody else is discussing them without them. Secondly, nobody seems to think that what Israel did in the last 2 years is a factor that has to be judged, on a moral basis, on an international legal basis. Countries that were accused by international legal tribunals of committing genocide were not able to move smoothly to the next year as if nothing had happened. And this would really build no confidence among the Palestinians that there's anything there that would end the ethnic cleansing of the West Bank, the discrimination against the Palestinians inside Israel, or will bring any kind of constructive solution to the destroyed Gaza Strip. So I think it's not going to transform into a genuine peace process or reconciliation. And I won't say that we're going back to the 6th of October. That would be saying too much. But we're going back to the same problem, the same issues that produced the 7th of October and produced the Israeli response to the 7th of October.
I mean, I wonder if one could argue that where we're going to is worse than the 6th of October. First of all, because of course Gaza is totally destroyed, and but also because it seems like the amount of Gaza that Palestinians will have access to is almost certainly going to be smaller. I mean, Israel is, I think, right now occupying about half of the Gaza Strip, and it doesn't seem likely that the withdrawals will certainly won't get to the third phase. It seems, I mean, could one argue that actually that Israel has kind of won a real victory? It hasn't destroyed Hamas, but if the goal was basically to take more land and concentrate Palestinians into a smaller territory, that's how Gaza was created in the first place, that this is actually another step towards that goal.
Yes, in a way, yes. On one level, it's true. If there were any inhibitions in the Israeli policy towards the Palestinians before the 7th of October, it seemed many of them have been removed, and therefore the kind of violence they inflict on the Palestinians is far worse, and the consequences, as you rightly say, especially for the people of Gaza. But I would say that we don't pay enough attention to the West Bank. Even the situation there is far worse than it was before the 7th of October 2023. I do agree, but what I meant about the fundamentals of not changing is that also before the 7th of October, the Palestinians didn't have the power to change the reality in which they lived.
Mhm.
They always depended, and they will depend, on the international community and maybe on the region itself.
Mhm.
And without any dramatic change in the position globally and regionally, it's very
Mhm.
difficult to see who would stop Israel from implementing further ethnic cleansing, God forbid, genocide, or
Mm.
even incremental operations that, in an accumulative manner, would lead to similar results that we've seen in the Gaza Strip. So by that's what I meant, that we are where we are, despite the fact that I don't remember the number of leaders that Trump succeeded in bringing over to Sharm el-Sheikh. This very impressive gathering of international of leaders from all over the world, did not produce anything fundamental in this regard.
Which kind of brings to us as to the book, because you sketch out in the book a possibility of a scenario that, within the next 25 years or so could produce a radical shift, right? In which Israel would no longer be a Jewish state, in which there would be equality under the law and some measure of decolonization. Um, and I just wanted to ask you, that I read the book, and so it seems you seem to be imagining a combination of internal rebellion that Israel cannot suppress, and growing external shifts that turn against Israel. I do see that it is clear that internationally, public opinion is moved. But do you really? It seems we are at a point in which the Palestinian capacity to actually build a popular movement internally on Israel it seems weaker than it has been. What leads you to think that in the coming years or decades you could have a situation where the rebellion is so great that basically Israel has to contemplate completely reimagining its political system?
Yeah, I think that there are dynamics that create other dynamics. So I think the first dynamic, the one that would unfold sooner rather than later, is an Israel that I call, actually, I claim that Israel is being swallowed by a new kind of state, which I call the state of Judea, a far more fanatic, racist, a theocratic, actually, state. This cannot be avoided, to my mind. But this kind of state would find it much more difficult than the present Israel, and definitely the previous Israel, to receive the kind of immunity it still receives, right? Not from the civil society, it's absolutely true, but from the governments and multinational corporation and whoever cynically or genuinely think that Israel needs to have this total support and protection. And I question whether how much on that level, first of all, would the same people who formed the alliance that now provides the immunity for Israel would be able to continue with it, including Jewish communities around the world, which are still very important for Israel's immunity. Secondly, I do think that the Palestinians, who are not easily pushed into uniting and acting as more effective, if you want, liberation movement, again, would be influenced by a realization that I would say they're not facing oppression. I warn them that they are facing elimination, which is far worse than occupation and even ethnic cleansing. And I draw some of my optimism from my connections and deep involvement with the younger Palestinian generation. As I note in the book, the Palestinian Society is one of the youngest in the world. And this generation of young Palestinians is very assertive, very educated. It's a huge human capital. They have the same problem that the youth had in the Arab world during the so-called Arab Spring. They are not very keen on organization. They think politics is a field of activity that is corrupted and ineffective. I hope that this kind of attitude would change, and I think they have the power to unite the Palestinian political scene, which is now totally divided and fragmented, and create a very different picture of what their vision is and what they demand from the region and the world, and rightly so, that should happen. And that I hope, I mean, this is, I can only hope and imagine that this can lead to a more dramatic change. But as I say in the book, I don't believe that one process by itself creates transformation in history. They are discrete processes, and there is a point where they meet together, and then they become quite explosive. And they're very slow to begin with, and then suddenly they accelerate. I say it on the basis of looking of how previous states either disappeared or regime dramatically change. And I think the internal implosion in the Israeli Jewish society, the looming economic crisis that will still come. It's not, we're not there yet. The weakness in the army that nobody seems to admit in Israel, but anybody who lives here can see that, together with the other processes I just mentioned, can create extensive cracks in this building that is called Israel, that already received quite a blow on the 7th of October. So it is an imagination not just of change in Palestine and Israel on the ground. It's an imagination that politics in the rest of the world can change in a way that would be conducive for change in Israel and Palestine. And I have to believe in it.